Hi guys and welcome to episode 32 of Beat to the Punch. I'm joined on the line with Riku Haikala. Riku, how's things, mate?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to back to being in the boxing sort of cauldron of things after a few quiet weeks. It's going to be an intense end to the year.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's good. It's good that we've got something to look forward to. This seems to be the thing over the last few years. You know, the build up to Christmas, starting to get December shows and all that now. I can't really remember before the last couple of years a lot of December shows.
No, and the funny thing is also there isn't that summer break. So in previous years you had the sort of August, you had no shows, but now you've got US shows in August, then you might have one UK show. So it seems because there's so many people in the market and so many promoters that everybody's just filling up dates wherever they can, and TV networks are doing the same.
Yeah, man. I was sitting the other day there and I was listening to another pod, and they were just kind of touching on the Charlo and Harris. Is it Harrison?
Harrison, yeah.
Yeah. And they were talking about the press conference, and I actually forgot all about that fight, and that's actually just before Christmas. That's on, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I think it was the one which was quite disgraceful one where. I think it was Charlo said to Harrison, "I'm going to pay for your funeral" or something.
Yeah,
like
man, and he already paid for Patrick Day's funeral.
I know, but I mean, the context of that is just awful, isn't it?
Yeah, man, it's tacky as fuck. But do you know what? Harrison is. See, when you watched it in the press conference, that Harrison is too quick in the tongue. He's got better banter, and there's nothing that Charlo can say gets to him, and it's through Charlo right off. You can see Charlo getting all flustered, and I just think it was one of the things like. You know, he was fucking Harrison just kept shooting him down, and I think he was just looking for something to say, and that's the kind of shit that's come out. And obviously he's got a bit of a backlash, and fucking it's poor taste.
Yeah, I don't think the Charlo brothers are ever going to win the Nobel Prize for Science, to be honest, but they're decent fighters.
yeah, definitely. But we've got Brendan, who's got transport problems over in the States. So we're going to kind of juggle things about, talk a bit about the stuff that's kind of more relevant to us here in Britain, and then hopefully by the time Brendan joins us, Brendan can then talk about the more worldwide stuff, the stuff that's happening in the US, and you know, we'll kind of try to get this to make sense. It'll work. Trust me, it'll work.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll start off with Kash Farooq and Lee McGregor. That was a fight I attended that weekend there. Fantastic fight, fantastic event. Did you catch this one on IFL, Riku?
I saw it, but I saw the highlights of afterwards, so I was skipping through it. So I did see the fight, and it did look like a good fight. But why don't you talk about how it was there? Obviously, it was Edinburgh versus Glasgow.
Yeah. So Edinburgh versus Glasgow. I had got my tickets for Tommy Philippin, like I had said before, on the pod. So it's just I got on the ticket. It didn't have a seat allocated to me. It just said go to Block D. So I went in and sitting there, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, there's a lot of funny accents about here. And it turned out that I was sitting right in amongst all the Edinburgh fans, all the boys that had come through from Edinburgh, and all the Kash Farooq fans and the boys from Glasgow were at the opposite side of the hall. But I've got to admit, I ended up getting a good laugh with the boys that were sitting beside us. You know, the atmosphere was electric in there. Obviously, same as any boxing event, you get some arseholes, and it was happening.
Yeah,
it happened a bit in front, you know, so I couldn't really see what happened, but it kind of semi-kicked off. And then, if you've the Emirates Arena, it's right next to Celtic Park, and right next door to Celtic Park is a big police station, London Road Police Station. So I think it semi-kicked off, and the call went out for the police to come over. And then there's 15 to 20 riot police come in, but the police just stood at the side, and then it's kicked off again. And fuck me, I just seen the police ragdolling people and dragging people away from the cameras, the TV cameras, and taking them into the next hall and beating them up. No, it was yeah, man, it was a bit madness, but. I mean, for actually expected it to be worse. I mean, that was maybe a group of about 10 boys, you know, about 10 boys down the front. For the kind of electric atmosphere that it was, I thought it was going to, there was a good chance that me and my friends were going to end up getting caught up in it, but, you know, fair play to all the people that we were sitting with. Everybody was there for a good time. we go to laugh. They weren't slow sticking it to me when the decision come in, but during the fight, even these most hardcore Lee McGregor fans were agreeing that Kash Farooq won that fight.
I think everybody seemed to agree, apart from Lee McGregor, who apparently watched it back and then said, well, I watched it back and it was a close fight, but we can do it again. But I hope they do fight again, because it always leaves a sour taste in after a good fight that the discussion's not about two great prospects fighting each other. It's about another bad judging decision.
Yeah. I mean, and just to touch on this, I mean, I feel that it's kind of the decision. It took me a couple of days to get over it. Now that I'm nearly a week past it, I'm a lot more settled with it, and I've accepted it, and I can kind of accept it. I can just look back at the fight and enjoy the fight. And I think that decision, before we move on to talk about the fight, I think that decision's kind of robbed Lee McGregor a lot of credit as well. Now, everybody's saying Kash Farooq was robbed, but Lee McGregor is one hard boy, man. I mean, that boy is tough, and he's got an engine in him. I mean, there was times in that fight where he could have went into his shell, but instead he fought through. And, fair play to Lee McGregor, who's took a lot of stick in the last week. If he didn't get his act together the second half of that fight, there would have been no way the judges could have took it away from Farooq. He got it close enough that he got the wink and the nod after the judges. I mean, it was an MTK show. We shouldn't be surprised with this anymore. But I mean, I think Lee McGregor this decision's kind of robbed him a bit. I see people getting tore into him, and I don't think a lot of people are giving him the praise that he deserves for keeping himself in the fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's often the case that in order for there to be a robbery, you have to have the scorecards need to be relatively close, but as well, there just needs to be bad scoring. And I think, give or take, Kash Farooq, judging by what I saw and judging what most people say, Kash Farooq probably won it by a few rounds. But it was sort of the second half of the fight was definitely Lee McGregor's half more so.
Yeah, I know I'll be talking to Billy Nelson. Billy worked the corner for a few fighters, and I know if we talking to Billy, I think Billy had him up 3 rounds, and then the point deduction kind of.
Yes.
I was the same. I think at the halfway point, I had it in the arena. I scored at 4-2, but when I actually watched it back, I had it 5-1 to Farooq. After 6 rounds, but even after that, I think McGregor had a good 7th, and then Farooq took the 8th, 9th, and then McGregor got a point, took half in the 10th. That puts that fight that puts it beyond all doubt for me. Do you know what I mean? When that point came off, Lee McGregor needed a knockout. That's how I see it.
Exactly.
Anyway. But I mean, just to talk about the fight. I mean, Kash Farooq, he was described. I mean, I'm high on Farooq, but I mean, he's been described as Scotland's best kept secret. Now that secret's now out the bag. I wouldn't be surprised if your Frank Warrens or Eddie Hearns are already on the phone to this kid, because I mean, he showed a level of skill and composure in there. I mean, I've never body work like that. I mean, I've never seen somebody like move their body. Be so evasive with their body the way Kash Farooq is. I mean, Lee McGregor was the first rounds. Lee McGregor could not lay a glove on Kash Farooq. He was a joy to watch, and for such a wee guy, he utilises his jab, which is a big criticism I've got of Lee McGregor. Lee McGregor, for such a big boy, does not use his jab. That's 2-3 times I've been to see Lee McGregor, and he's too eager to fight. He always wants to fight, which is great for us fans, but that's going to shorten his career, and it's going to lower the ceiling of where his career can go. But just to get back to Kash was the way he switches stuff. He's worked for the body to up top. He's getting in. He'll sit in the pocket, but he'll be evasive in the pocket. It was a joy to watch. I mean, that's how I find it hard for anybody. I mean, the judge that only gave Kash Farooq 4 rounds. I don't understand what he could have been scoring in that first half of the fight, because Lee McGregor could not lay a glove on him. It was...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, based on what I saw, it was very hard to give Lee McGregor many rounds or if any rounds in the first half of the fight. So, but yeah, again, credit to him for coming back in the fight. But both of those guys showed the same as Inoue Donaire. Actually, these smaller weight class guys that are easily overlooked, they can be just as exciting, and because they punch output is so high, the skill level is so much higher than the bigger guys that it's always a joy to watch a well-matched fights at that level. And also because these guys don't need to be protected because the money isn't there. Nobody's going to be making millions of pounds at that weight class. So they chucked them in early, and these guys aren't protected. So I think it was great matchmaking, and styles really gelled for those two guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's good to see that Lee McGregor's already talked about the rematch. We already know that Cash wanted the rematch. I felt sorry for Cash in the arena. It was, you felt for him because he is such a lovely boy. But Lee McGregor, I mean, that was his 8th fight. You know, that's him. He's got the British title, he's got the Commonwealth title, and he's away now looking for the European title. Now, I mean, getting a bit of a gift decision or no, I mean, that is a fantastic rate to be pushing a boy along at, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people have been quite high on him for a while, haven't they? So the McGuigans and others have been mentioning his name and saying that he's, you know, an exceptional talent. So you can't take away, even though the decision wasn't ideal, but I don't think anybody can take away what he's achieved in such a short space of time. I mean, it's not his fault how the judges score fights, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, I mean, he could have went into his shell and felt sorry for himself, you know, because there was a point in about, I think it was just at the end of the 6th, he looked shattered, and then he went out and he hurt Cash in the 7th with a lovely uppercut, and then, you know, you kind of got the feeling, you know, into the later rounds that he was the one in the ascendancy and Cash was spent, but I already thought Cash had done enough by then. But as I said, Lee McGregor could have went into his shell, he could have felt sorry for himself, he could have, you know, pretty much chucked it mentally, but he didn't. But it's got to be said, I mean, I've been watching boxing for years, I've been to a load of events, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody that at 8 fights, I mean, 8 fights, and Lee McGregor's bringing 1,000 fans through from Edinburgh to Glasgow, or close to 1,000 fans. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh Taylor in the World Boxing Super Series is probably only getting about 4,500 in that big arena in Glasgow. There's Lee McGregor selling a quarter of that himself, and for what I hear, MTK shot themselves in the foot because they could have sold that arena out 2 or 3 times over, for what I hear.
Exactly. I think one of the big challenges for Scottish fighters is why the bigger promoters don't necessarily go after them is if they can't sell a lot of tickets and the arenas aren't there, you have to get a lot of Scottish fighters to put on the undercard. So I think MTK is kind of the perfect platform for these guys because they can build a fan base and they can box regularly in Scotland because MTK has enough shows. It's not like you're putting when Eddie Hearn used to have Ricky Burns on Sky, he used to rely on Ricky Burns being there and getting all these other guys on the undercard that weren't even his guys. Whereas with MTK, there's enough Scottish talent to go around. And I think it's good that we in the South get to see some of these Scottish fighters that, you know, guys like you and Gloves Red and all those guys talk about. So I think it's a good showcase for Scottish boxing.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that. I mean, I think just now that we haven't got somebody with attraction power at Ricky Burns in Scotland, not even Josh Taylor's not even anywhere close to it. Not to be having loads of digs at Josh Taylor, it's just there's so many other factors. I mean, it was Ricky Burns was kind of like a phenomenon in himself. Do you know what I mean? It was just a bit of a mad thing. But I mean, it's good to see MTK, as you were saying, that they're putting on strong cards. And I mean, that's the thing with Scottish boxing. There is boxing fans out there. I mean, there is Glasgow is a fighting town. Edinburgh, I mean, some of the best talent in Scottish boxing now is off the East Coast. But it just shows you, if you put on the good fights, the fans will come. And I mean, when Cyclone was doing shows at the SSE Hydro, I mean, they had, was it Josh Taylor in against a guy Campos or something like that, and what the fuck, I would have been as well going in there and fighting him, and it just kind of felt like I'm going to kind of milk as much money out of Josh the New before he goes into this Super Series.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, and see, when I think when you start doing that, people just lose interest. You know,
completely agree. Completely agree.
And then obviously when Josh was in, he was fighting, was it Ryan Martin now? Was it Ryan Martin you called that boy? Aye.
Yeah, Ryan Martin was the guy that failed the drug test.
Yeah, he just got a 4-year ban actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we went to the Super Series and Josh Taylor's fighting Ryan Martin. I mean, that's not going to sell, so and that's where the prestige of the Super Series. So, I mean, it's just... I think that too many of these mediocre fights, it can turn fans off. You know what I mean? They can already just make up their mind, go like, okay, he's picking and choosing fights, and that's not the case. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think televised cards always have to have a higher standard, don't they? I mean, by televised, I mean televised by sort of mainstream media rather than MTK.
Just on that, just to touch on this. What do you think about the MTK IFL deal? Because I've got to admit, I am a big fan of it.
I think it's good for all parties, and obviously that goes to ESPN in the US, but we wouldn't get to see those fights as consumers. There's, you know, it's a niche audience that will watch it, right? There's about 100,000 people at best that would watch that kind of stuff. But I think for us, it's great because you get to see the live shows, sort of trade shows, free of charge, and also you just get to see the fights. You don't need to see all the bollocks around it. You know, like Channel 5's coverage and all that stuff. They don't need to be hyping up the fights and telling us that this is the next best thing. You just get to enjoy the boxing.
Yeah, I mean, the day after the Farooq and McGregor fight, I was on YouTube to just go and rewatch it again, and I mean, it was up. I mean, you're talking about 12 hours later, and it had like 130,000 views. I mean, that's phenomenal for small hall guys. You know what I mean? That's a kind of exposure that they wouldn't get in the undercard on the TV. You know, if they were on a Sky card and they were on at 8 o'clock at night, they probably wouldn't have that. You know what I mean?
Definitely not.
Do you know?
Yeah, and I understand the argument for not doing it from a promoter's perspective. Why promoters don't do it, small promoters, but from a fan perspective, it's great.
Yeah, and I think that this kind of deal with YouTube, IFL and broadcasting it on YouTube, it's kind of smoothing in this transition that's going to be coming, where we're going to start getting our sport from streaming platforms. You know, it's not like in the US where it's kind of ESPN Plus and DAZN of just goes like, boom, you know, that's us as subscription, subscribe to this. You know, it's kind of like, you know, it's becoming more acceptable. And another thing I would say is, I had the feeling that Box Nation was going to keep running, and they were looking to get this deal with MTK. And it looks as if IFL has come in right under the radar and took that off them. Dude, there's like a channel, Box Nation, that sits there and what it does is show reruns of Nigel Benn fighting Gerald McClellan. Do you know that's pretty much...
I had Box Nation a few years ago, though. I just, after seeing Cotto Margarita for the 15th time in a month, I just decided enough is enough, Frank Warren. And that's why I'm actually banned by Frank Warren on Twitter, because I was slagging off Box Nation, so he banned me.
Yeah, I get banned. Remember when that West Ham fan was boxing in London?
Yes.
And all the West Ham casuals were there, and the place went up in the air. And I remember like the camera zoomed out, and that you could hear the ring announcer in the ring shouting, begging people to stop fighting. And I went and tweeted Frank actually, like I was actually asking a genuine question, then I'll get blocked. And I was blocked for my two social media platforms. On the DJ Boxing was blocked, and my own personal one was blocked. I was like, fuck you, Frank, I don't like you anyway.
I know. But obviously, IFL is owned by MTK, so that deal makes sense because it's all in-house, isn't it?
Oh, right, I didn't realise MTK...
Because that's why they always say, on the IFL videos at the beginning. You know, they always go like they always chat about MTK.
Yeah. I just thought it was a sponsor thing. I didn't realise they actually owned it. But
no, I don't know whether they own it, but they are basically the money behind it.
Yeah. Now, while we're talking about broadcasters and that, and we're waiting on Brendan, let's talk about the announcement that Sky Box Office is charging £25 or $24.95 for AJ Ruiz 2. Now, is this acceptable, and who's to blame for this?
Yeah, I think we probably have to start by saying how these things are actually structured. So what would have happened is Matchroom would have been touting out this sort of where the venue is, and usually if the venue is in the UK, let's say Cardiff, Sky would own the rights for that fight, which is part of the package. So Sky would put some money behind to say, we'll buy the rights for this fight. And then if it's in the US, DAZN would say, well, we'll pay, if Joshua isn't in the DAZN deal, they'll say, we'll pay you £30 million, and then you get the side fee on top. And then in exchange for that, Sky or DAZN would be selling the rights for the fight to different broadcasters around the world. So if Sky owns it, they would sell part of the fee to this. I mean, part of the US rights to DAZN, and then they would sell it to German TV, and then they would sell it to, Dutch TV and wherever. Well, in this case, what happened is the Saudis have funded this fight. So what it means is that nobody that is your usual players owns the right for this TV package. And what I think it was Joe Markowski that was saying this, or Adam Smith, that the rights fees that they would have to pay for this kind of fight are a lot cheaper than they would be for a normal Joshua main event fight. So actually, Sky are getting this a lot cheaper as a DAZN than they would if it was in the US and UK. The challenge being, of course, the timing doesn't work from a US perspective, but it was never going to work if it was going to be in the UK either. So with the £25, the money isn't being split between Matchroom and Sky massively. So I'd say probably Matchroom will take 10%, Sky will take 90%, because all the money for this event is going to be funded by the Saudis. So this is a decision by Sky to say, you know what, we're going to put this for £25 because we know people are going to pay for it, and we can recoup the money from the bad pay-per-views we have done this year.
Yeah, so really what you're saying is this is a bit of a cash grab.
Yeah, it is, because there's none of the money. Matchroom doesn't dictate how much they charge for these pay-per-views, and because the Saudis are putting the money for this event, the Saudis aren't, the Matchroom aren't reliant on Sky money to run this event and to pay the fighters' purse and everything else. Matchroom don't need Sky's money because Sky's money isn't tied to this event.
Oh man, that's just that makes it even worse. I mean, because I mean we kind of heard about Dillian Whyte's pay-per-view not doing too well earlier on in the year, and we also seen Andy Ruiz and AJ take place in the US, which I mean that's got to hurt sales when it's on at Oilers. People can go to their bed and then get up and catch it on the Daily Motion the next day. So this kind of feels like they're just looking to recoup. They're looking to break, break even, but I mean they're just looking to recoup money that they've maybe lost out in this year. And the fact that they're getting it for, as you say, if that's right what you're saying, they're pretty much, they're getting it a hell of a lot cheaper, and they don't need to share the money equally with Matchroom. That's fucking.
Well, it is, isn't it? Because when you had Joshua against Ruiz in the US, Sky obviously had their production team, and they did there's a bit of cost involved in that, but ultimately it was a DAZN show, wasn't it? So the feed and the cameras and everything are DAZN feeds. The same when we went to Lomachenko against Campbell, that put Sky cameras and everything else, and that's just broadcast the same stream around the world, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
So that cost is bared by the Saudis. That's not bared by Sky or DAZN. So what that means is they just pay for the right to get that stream, and then they'll have a few people ringside with the mics. It looks like it's their show, which everybody does. DAZN does, Sky does, whoever it might be. So, but they have said, or it's been said by, I think it's Adam Smith that was saying, it's cheaper for us to actually buy the rights for this fight because it's in Saudi Arabia.
Do you think that maybe because Sky will not own the rights outright, you know, they'll own the rights for like the UK, but if the fight was taking place in the UK, they would own the rights to sell rights to, you know,
other
across
countries,
Europe and Asia and the US. Do you think do you think that's where like the extra monies came from? But is it an extra £5 came from? You know, maybe they're not making as much money that way. Or do you think that makes a difference?
Well, if they would have had it in the UK, right? They would have had to fund the pot that would have put together that would have went towards the fighters' purses.
Ah, right.
Because that's how they make the money, right? Like Eddie Hearn makes the money through venue sales, so they make what tickets they sell at the venue, and then what money the main broadcaster is willing to pay.
Oh man, it just see. I know very little about this kind of side of boxing. I find it interesting, but I don't actually know how it works. So I mean, hearing you like pretty much telling me how this is working, and it is actually a bit it's a cash grab. You know,
I mean, it's a massive cash grab. That's the sad thing about this. That it's a massive, it's clearly a massive cash grab.
Yeah, man, it's quite brazen as well. But do you know what? It's one of the ones. If you don't want to pay the £25, you know, do what most days are doing now, and you know, watching it other ways. You know,
exactly.
If you really want to see this fight and you don't want to pay the £25, you will find a more economic way to watch this fight. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, sorry, on you go, mate.
No, I was just going to say, I presume this is the new standard, though. So the new standard will be for these big pay-per-view events, particularly the ones that involve Joshua, they will be £25 because, frankly, if you're going to pay for a pay-per-view, you're not going to not pay for it because of the extra fiver.
Yeah, but you know what happened? See, 2 years ago when it went up,
it was £15, wasn't it?
Yeah, when it went up to £19, then other people saying, "Oh, you know, it's only an extra fiver." So 2 years later, it goes like that again. Oh, it's only an extra fiver. But if you actually think about it,
it's a 40% increase from 2 years ago. What the pay-per-view price will be?
Yeah, exactly. So in another 2 years' time, can we be expecting to be paying £30, and we'll all turn around again and say, "Oh, do you know what? I mean, it's only another £5." And then before you know it, if there's a pay-per-view on in a month, your Sky bill's then doubled. I mean, how much do you pay? How much do you pay for Sky Sports for a month? About £33, £40.
I wouldn't know, but I think that when I was paying for it was around that. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, DAZN will come to the UK at some point, right? And that will be the interesting point for what happened with Sky and Eddie Hearn's contract with Sky and how that changes things. I think it was Ultratech Raw that was saying this, which I think was a very fair point, that Eddie Hearn can't be swanning around the US and telling that pay-per-view is dead, and then at the same time chatting here in the UK how, oh, it's only an extra fiver, don't worry about it. It's a bit hypocritical, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and you're talking about this time of year now. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody's belts need to... everybody's disposable income is a lot less at this time of year. I mean, so, I know that we are saying it's only a fiver, but, I mean, you know what it's like when you've got a wife and you go, "Oh, I'm going to order the boxing this weekend," and you say, "All right, how much is it?" And you go like that, "Oh, £25," and she'll go like, "Are you fuck? Do you know what I mean? You're already paying for your Sky Sports in there for watching your fucking football.
It's like a month Sky Sports, isn't it?
Yeah, man. See, if you've got a wife like mine, she would just go like that. You're fucking not watching it.
I don't even tell my missus that it's a pay-per-view. I just pretend pay-per-view doesn't exist.
The zone's already here, baby.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, the other thing that annoys me mainly about this whole thing is that if we're saying that all this money is increased so that we can get better quality boxing and Sky can invest more in boxing, then I would sort of say, all right, that's fair enough. But actually what we're seeing is the Saturday fight nights and the shows, those type of shows, have just got worse and worse over the years, haven't they?
Yeah, and I mean, we even saw, Rocky Fielding in that fighting on IFL, so even the stuff that we'd probably usually be on as a fight night and we would all moan about it is now actually getting on to IFL anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and also you're having MTK Golden contract on there. Yes, I like the concept and it's interesting, but effectively is small hall boxing on Sky, as is Next Gen. That's like small hall plus. You don't really get the quality Saturday fight nights. I think it's 3-4 years ago, Eddie Hearn was telling us that every Saturday fight night would have a world title fight on it. I mean, granted, yes, Katie Taylor fought for a world title, but why harp back on the days when you had like a Crawler against Linares as a main event? That was like the standard that you'd expect, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that would be a pay-per-view now. I've no doubt about that.
Definitely.
While we're kind of touching on this show in Saudi Arabia, I don't think it's been announced as yet, but it looks all but certain to be announced that Dillian Whyte is going to be fighting on that card. But he's still under investigation from UKAD. How disjointed does boxing need to be for this to be happening? You know, you've got a guy suspected of cheating, but he's also free to go and fight, and nobody's actually like taking initiative here and you know go no, you know, let's wait till we see what the investigation comes back.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that nothing's being communicated, and you can still fight. So imagine if he goes in the ring and ends up killing someone, or hurting someone really badly, then we find out subsequently that he's been banned in his box since. Or even if he doesn't hurt somebody, he has another fight, but then he has a ban that's been given later. Does he get 2 no contests then? How does this all work?
Yeah, exactly.
What's actually happening? Like, how is this legit, right? It's not like you could do any other sport where you're under investigation for doing something that's legal and you could still compete until the investigation is over. It's not like in football you can get sent off and then you can complain about you can complain to the FA and say that actually the sending off wasn't fair, and then whilst that's going on, the hearing for that, you could still play in between. It doesn't work that way.
No, and I mean, even with in Scottish football, I don't know if they do the same in English football, but in Scottish football, in that circumstance, and you put in an appeal, and there's a chance that you could miss a game, but the decision's been rang, what they'll do is they'll do a fast track appeal, and you know, and they'll go, right, let's bring it all forward and so that there's no miscarriages of justice. No here. We're not seeing anything like that here. I mean, what's that, 3 months now, and we've heard nothing now. I believe if Dillian Whyte was innocent or anything had come back and saying he was innocent, it would have been shouted for the rooftops the same way that it was shouted for the rooftops when he failed it. Do you know, the same way that everybody,
exactly.
if he could justify, if he could say that his B sample was clear, everybody would know about it now. But the fact that it's all still been kept under, all still been kept hushed, that kind of reeks of guilt for me.
I agree, and also, how can we pretend? What I'd like to see the media do is actually ask the questions around this, because if he's on the card, how can we pretend that nothing has happened, right? How can we just go on and pretend that Sky Sports, that about the drug test and everybody else that nothing has actually happened. I mean, it's ludicrous, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, there's something that's also bugging me with it. I've had my rants about this event being in Saudi Arabia and all the rest of it, but I can't see Saudi Arabia having a world class boxing commission. I can't see
I don't
them
think
being.
they had one before this fight, to be
Yeah,
honest.
so how do they? I mean, what about their drug testing? And how stringent is this going to be? And we've got a guy here suspected of cheating, and he could be going over there and have free reign to cheat. Do you know what I mean? There's no, I don't like it. There's something that just doesn't sit right with me. There's no reason that Dillian Whyte had to fight in this. And I think that the fact that he's been put onto this card without him being cleared, without him having any explanation, I think it's kind of spitting in the face. It's kind of spitting in the face of the sport, to be honest with you. You know, it's kind of saying, look, we're bigger.
Yeah, it's underhand tactics, isn't it? Because whether you could say that he could legitimately be on this card, so you could argue that, the investigation's still with UCAD, so the ban would be with UCAD. I mean, I imagine that's what Eddie Head will say. The ban would be with UCAD, but he's still free to box. They haven't banned him technically, but he's still free to box anywhere he wants in the world. So in the UK, it might be that he isn't allowed to box at this very moment. That's why they're boxing with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
this is the thing, isn't it? It's underhand tactics.
Yeah, because I remember. Well, I think actually what I was reading the other day was the board have says that he's not suspended, but UCAD have says that he's under investigation. So I don't see how a fight could be sanctioned if he's under investigation for drug taking. So I think that could be why he's off ski to Saudi. You know, he's still got his license, but maybe he just can't fight here in the UK. But, I mean, as you were saying a minute ago, I mean, there's questions you would like the media to be asking, and this kind of leads us on to something that you put it in the chat, and I mean, I thought it was quite funny, but it's also something that I thought that everybody knew. That, I mean, these news outlets, your IFLs, who else? Like your beyond, what are they called? The one where I say Michelle Phelps behind the gloves.
Yeah.
These guys are all in bed with Matchroom, and I mean, in the article you linked me in Fight News was they were talking about DAZN actually taking them out there and wining and dining them, but this has been going on for years. But how can you expect the boxing media to have any credibility when the biggest and most read and most watched ones are actually in bed with the people that they're reporting on? You know, is there a question of professional integrity there?
I definitely think so. So the media's job is to police, I guess, whatever it is looking at and scrutinise it, right? That's what the media's there to scrutinise what's going on. So it's a bit like in the context of what's going on in the UK, or, you know, you'd have, let's say, the Times or the Telegraph being the biggest funder of the Conservative Party. I mean, how can it then scrutinise it? Or the Conservative Party owning the Telegraph? You can't claim that they don't have any editorial, that they're editorially independent if they are being funded to go to these events. Like the article said, they've been funded to cover certain things. Because if you start scrutinising it, you won't be invited, will you? I mean, you're not being paid to go to these events to tell everybody how bad they are, or, you know, what's wrong with these events.
Well, it's one of the most basic fundamental bits of democracy and living in a society of free speech is that you have a free press. That's now that we're kind of getting into a situation here, and we've all kind of known it. I mean, I get told by somebody, it was a few years ago, I don't want to say their name, but I get told way back then, before IFL was what it is just now, but I get told that Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn used to pay wages to people in IFL. Now, that's obviously, they know better than me, I couldn't comment either way, but I've thought that kind of had my mindset on that, and I'm thinking nowadays it's so clear that there is a monopoly, and there's a monopoly with access, and anytime that they let people in, anytime that they let somebody else in, if you ask the right question, or you you upset them. Like Radio Raheem, remember when he
Yes,
upset Eddie? I mean, I dare say that guy's, he's lost his credentials and stuff like that for DAZN and Matchroom shows because he made Eddie uncomfortable.
exactly. And it's not. I can't think of if we go back to the same point, what's wrong with the sport, but I can't think of another sport where you have the same people, covering the sport, but they are so close and pally with the people organising. You don't see football journalists, being pally with managers constantly and not scrutinising them. But rather than having, let's say, we could use the Times as an example, you might have one guy that's pally with someone like Klopp or Guardiola, but the entire staff won't be. You won't see every single, the Times writer being pally with a specific manager because when things go wrong, they have to give them a kicking. And I'm not saying that that's what the boxing media should be to do to give them a kicking, but at least make sure that nothing that you're doing is swaying the editorial sort of integrity of your platform, whether it be a video or whether it be a writing platform.
No, I actually stopped watching IFL because of this. I think that when you're watching these interviews with Eddie Hearn, and sometimes Coogan will touch on something that maybe fans have been accusing Hearn, or he'll touch on a touchy subject, and you can tell by Eddie Hearn's reaction that he either knows about this question pre-hand and has an answer ready, or he's actually, they've agreed it before it's been asked. Because when Coogan asks him, he's calm and can turn it into a joke and a laugh. When Radio Raheem asked him and he wasn't ready for it, he loses his temper. He starts insulting the guy. He gets through off course and he kind of goes back to looking like this petulant child. And I think that's why I don't watch it. I was like, it's becoming so transparent now. I say, because you can see it. I was like, you can see it. I mean, I feel bad because I actually like Coogan Cassius, but I mean,
Yeah.
I just think that sometimes when you're watching it, you go like, that's no. If you're giving Eddie Hearn any control in that interview, then what's the point of the interview? You know what I mean? You're not asking him hard questions. You're asking the questions that Eddie's got an answer for. That's not a hard question then.
I agree. I completely agree. And yeah, it's just a shame that there isn't anybody in boxing, or there are many platforms, particularly the ones that do the video interviews, where they can properly scrutinize, because of the economics of it don't make sense. The economics of doing these video interviews don't make sense unless you're taking money from the people you're covering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a clickbaity, a lot of the stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like sort of, let's see what Eddie Hearn says, and then let's get Frank Warren to see what he says, and then we can try and get them together, and not together, but let's pit them against each other, kind of thing.
Yeah. We've been stalling for a long time here and, putting off the previews for Brendan, but we're going to end up here all night. So how about we jump after that, these kind of topics of discussion, and we'll jump onto the fights that's happening this weekend. So we'll start with Callum Smith taking on John Ryder. It's a bit of a banana skin for Callum Smith, this, because John Ryder isn't a mug, even though he's probably a career middleweight. But
yes,
I mean, it's hard for Callum Smith to come out and impress in this fight, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's expected to take a smaller guy out. I mean, I saw John Ryder a few months ago near my work. He was at the team, and he's so short. He's a small guy. And actually, when you fight against a guy that physically doesn't look the same as you, sort of height-wise, you're just in for a beating, to be honest. There's no way that Callum Smith, unless he takes him out in the first or second round, there's just no way that he can actually look good in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, because what we're really talking about here is we're talking about a light heavyweight taking on a middleweight, really, aren't we? I mean, that's pretty much what it's going to be on fight night. You know what I mean? John Ryder's not going to come in much heavier than what Triple G would be coming in it.
No.
And Callum Smith will be coming in away up at probably with Sergei Kovalev weighed in it for his fight against Canelo a couple of weeks ago. I mean, so it doesn't bode well for John Ryder, but do you see any chance anyway for John to win this? Because as I say, he's no a mug, John Ryder. You know, he's come up the hard way, he's got the experience, but I mean, it's a bit of a mountain he's got to climb.
Yeah, I just don't see. So I think Callum Smith, I used to be very high on him as a fighter, and I still think it's good, but I think he might have regressed a bit. But John Ryder, you know, he lost to Rocky Fielding a couple of years ago, and this is a guy that Callum Smith took out in the first round. He's lost to guys like Jack Armfield, Nick Blackwell, obviously Billy Joe Saunders, but he's been on a good run. So obviously beating Jamie Cox was a bit of a surprise, and then beating the Russian guy and, you know, the other guy that he beat, what's he called, Akwi or someone like that. So he's been on a good run, but I think Callum Smith is probably a step too far. And if I was the guy that would be managing John Ryder, and if it was out of the interest of actually getting the world title, you'd match him with any other champion but Callum Smith in that weight division.
Yeah, absolutely, because, I mean, Callum Smith, there's no doubt about it. The guy is a monster at that weight. But, I mean, we've seen over the last couple of months, Callum Smith shouting about this Canelo fight. Beating John Ryder doesn't really bring that fight any closer, does it?
No. I mean, it's another fight which is, I would say, sort of a UK fight, but no one here nobody in the US will. I mean, this won't even move the needle in the US. Nobody will even know this fight is happening.
Yeah. I mean, as Callum Smith had all this momentum coming out the World Boxing Super Series, and he came out to a very wealthy man as well, I understand that. But his inactivity before he went into the Super Series and his inactivity after it it's put me off him. I mean, I was high on Callum Smith a few years ago, but now I've no time for people. I mean, he done well to win the Super Series, but I mean, come on. I mean, you fought a George Groves who wasn't fit and he was already dying at the weight. You know, you beat him well, knocked him out well. You can't argue with that, but yeah, that's nothing to live off of. You know what I mean? That should have been the stepping stone to push out and, you know, go and get things. Not to sit there and say I'm number one and think that guys like Canelo are going to come and source him out to fight him. I mean.
I mean, in the US, I think more people actually think Caleb Plant's the best in division.
Yeah,
and because people don't know Callum Smith. They've seen him fight once on a Joshua undercard. I mean, how are they meant to be convinced that this guy's the second coming? And beating a guy like John Ryder just doesn't do it. It just really doesn't do it.
So we've also got Danny Jacobs, that fight against Chavez Jr. Well, as Brendan says last week, we'll wait till they two are in the ring before we actually say that fight's going to happen. But I think Danny Jacobs definitely fighting. For what I hear, they've got a replacement set up anyway. I can't remember who it was. But what's your thoughts on that fight? Because I love that fight, and I think that if you go and fight Danny Jacobs, that also announces you to that American audience, and then you have people over there. If you go over there and you take out Danny Jacobs, people in the US will be saying, we want to see Canelo in against him. Do you think that's the fight that Smith should be chasing?
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. I think that's sort of the perfect fight because Danny Jacobs, he's a charismatic guy, so you beat a guy that is a good talker and that can build the fight. So for me, it's that's one of those no-brainer fights that they all in the matchroom, the zone stable anyway, so you might as well get him to fight against Danny Jacobs. I think that's a good fight. And also, the winner or the loser of that fight, it doesn't mean that the loser has to quit or anything, because Callum Smith, even if he beats Danny Jacobs, he'll probably move up and Danny Jacobs could get another bounce in that division. So, yeah, I think it definitely makes sense.
Yeah, and you know that Danny Jacobs is popular in the US because of that backstory he's got, and I mean he's gave the two best middleweights in the world really good fights. You know, he gave Triple G hell, and he gave Canelo a lot of problems. So I mean, if you want to gauge how you're going to fare against Saul Canelo Alvarez, then he's a guy to go to. You know what I mean? He's a guy in between. And the both of them have got good ties with Eddie Hearn, so I shouldn't see how that fight is not even. What's annoying me about it is it's not even been spoke about. It's not even been suggested yet, and it's like I don't understand why that is, because it's a fight that makes perfect sense.
I don't understand either. It's really I think it's a win-win fight, but we've seen time and time again, Eddie Hearn will get loads of these guys in a division together and they won't fight each other. Because also you have Billy Joe Saunders knocking about, don't you?
Yeah.
And didn't they make an offer when Billy Joe Saunders were Frank Warren? They wanted that fight for Callum Smith and they made an offer, or vice versa, something like that. But now that they're in the same stable, they're just being kept apart.
Yeah, and I mean, I did see Callum Smith after Ball's last performance. They were saying that he would love that fight, and I was thinking to myself, well, I bet you would. This is because, I mean, I think I would fancy my chances against Billy Joe after seeing that last performance. You know what I mean? Again, that's no Billy Joe Saunders isn't he a middleweight? Isn't he a super middleweight? The guy's a middleweight. He's no business being up there. And I think if Callum Smith chases that Billy Joe Saunders fight, I would start to question whether Callum Smith's actually the real deal or he's a weight bully. Because I mean that would be me. You know, I would start to think, you know, there's no reason for you no going chasing Jacobs. There's no reason for you no out shouting for the hill tops that you want in this Canelo fight and you're going and chasing it down. You know, and then going and doing Billy Joe Saunders, that just wouldn't sit right with me.
Yeah, I agree. But then in that in that division, there just aren't many guys that could, apart from Jacobs, there just aren't many guys they could fight, is there? Because Caleb Plant's on the other side of the street. Benavidez is the obvious choice. He's another big guy, but it's not the greatest of divisions, is it?
No, it's not. And do you know what? I'm actually surprised that Callum Smith has no decided that he wants to go up to light heavyweight, because you know there's some good money fights up there for him, and you know I think he could get in there and make an impression right away. You know,
is there? Do these guys really make like Beterbiev and Bivol and these guys? I don't think they actually make that much money, but I'm not saying Callum Smith makes loads of money.
If you brought Beterbiev over to the UK and you made that fight, let's not say a stadium, let's just say you made it in the London O2, but you had it pay-per-view, I mean, that would do well, I think. I would imagine that would do well.
But Callum Smith, we'll see how much he can sell, right? If he would have sold loads in Liverpool, we'd never hit the end of Eddie Hearn telling how well Callum Smith sells. And to my understanding, the Smith brothers, they were never the greatest ticket salesmen anyway. So we'll see how many fans are there for Callum Smith over the weekend.
Do you know what? I'll take that back, because you're absolutely spot on. I don't even think Callum Smith could sell at the Echo.
No, that's the thing. And then Beterbiev, there's only a handful of people like ourselves that actually care about, that know who this guy is. This Russian monster, this killer.
Well, let's move on to Wilder Ortiz. The first fight was a cracker. Do you think that the second fight will live up to the hype?
I think if often in boxing, rematches go the same way as the first fight. So if anything, I think he's got a dispatch of him quicker than before.
Yeah, I think that's a big fear. I mean, I've been a big advocate of this fight because I enjoyed the first one so much, but as it's drawn in, I'm now starting to think to myself, I can see maybe Wilder just getting to him sooner. But Ortiz is looking in fantastic shape in there. I've got to take
must be the heart medicine, right? The heart.
Yeah, man, it's
that
high blood pressure. I mean, people with high blood pressure are the fittest guys in the world, I hear.
Exactly.
But I think it has to be said, and there's got to be a lot of credit here gave to Deontay Wilder, because this is a massive risk that he's taking with the Tyson Fury fight on the horizon. We've seen that money already nearly disappeared when Fury fought Otto Wallen. I mean, Wallen, if that fight was anywhere else or a different ringside doctor, or anywhere, that there's every chance that fight gets stopped and Tyson Fury gets beat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, I've got to admit, I've got a lot of respect for Wilder, because I was listening to another podcast and they were saying that they were on the media conference call with Ortiz, and his trainer does all the translating for him, and when they were asking questions, so the Spanish is coming across, and then he's saying stuff, and he's saying, he says, Ortiz thinks that a lot of Wilder's shots are illegal and they're no skillful and stuff like that. And then when they had Deontay Wilder on the call, Deontay Wilder's like, he didn't say that. He says, he's like, he would never say that. He says, me and Ortiz have got a great relationship. He says, fair at first fight. He said, we speak probably every week since that last fight. And Wilder, it's quite noble, his reasoning for giving him the fight. He says he wanted to give Ortiz another payday, because he's like, both of them have got disabled daughters, and he says, I know about the money, how expensive everything is. And he says, he's like, this guy, he's coming to the end of his career and nobody's gave him a shot. He's not made any money. And so Wilder says, he's like, before he took the Fury fight, he's like, I thought I would give Ortiz another shot at it. He says, I mean, because of how good the first fight was anyway, he says it's a legit opponent. And I was thinking to myself, man, I was like, that's ballsy. I says, but it's so noble as well,
Yeah, I agree. And, Wilder seems to have a good heart. Ultimately, and I don't think he's a guy that talks smack about other guys unless they talk smack about him. He's not a guy that goes around disrespecting his opponents or belittling them. And I think this is a nice fight. If you take away the other top three and you take away, I'll include Ruiz into that as well. So Ruiz, Joshua, Tyson Fury, and you have Dillian Whyte there. Out of all the fighters that are left, I think Ortiz is probably the best matchup. And then we also have the history of it. And as you said, last time he wasn't too far away from, dispatching of Wilder in the 7th round. So if Ortiz is a bit better, it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, and I've got to comment on this Fox and PBC stuff, because I go on YouTube, I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, boxing documentaries, I watch old shit, and there's been so much Fox and PBC are putting so much behind this fight. It's unbelievable, the push that they're giving it. I mean, you're getting videos, an interview with Deontay Wilder that's been on Fox Sport, and in 24 hours it's got 500,000 hits. And I was sitting thinking to myself, like, was it not just a few years ago that with Deontay Wilder, people were making fun of him, saying that nobody knows who he is? Well, now he's on Fox, and for what he's on Fox on prime time after the American football, so he's still got all the people still watching. And for what I hear, I mean, Fox at every Breton play in the NFL had the short advert for this fight on, because it's a pay-per-view, and then the next, every 5 minutes they had that on, and then maybe every half hour they had the extended advert on. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, do you know what? I said, Fox, the power Fox has got, and they're putting everything behind this. I can see this pay-per-view being a massive success.
Yeah, I think so as well. And if anybody listens to Fistianado's podcast, where Aaron Rutkovsky, who used to be an HBO marketing exec, he's done an episode especially around why this pay-per-view will be a success, because of this is Fox for the first time putting all of its marketing muscle and behind this fight. And, it's a compelling story. People love heavyweights. I think in terms of numbers, it's going to be a huge success. In the US, it doesn't matter that much whether it sells out in the arenas, because most fights don't. They just comp tickets. But it's going to be, I think the numbers are going to be very, very big. And especially while they can dispatch him on Fox in front of this audience, it's going to be unbelievable, isn't it, for his profile in the US?
Yeah, man, that's it, and it kind of builds up. I mean, Tyson Fury must just be sitting there praying that Wilder gets the job done, because right away they're going to build the Fury Wilder fight right off the back of that. And I mean, although we're saying that, me and Brendan were commenting last week about the ticket prices, coming from $350, $400 down to $100. But I mean, that I think that the fight will still get a decent attendance in there, and as you said, it's like they will comp them. Well, the hotels, but the hotels will buy them at a cut rate price, and then they'll get their high rollers in, and that the place. I think the atmosphere will be good enough. It'll not be as if the arena will be empty. I think it'll be quite good, and I also think that the numbers will be probably better than what they did the last time. Anyway.
Oh yeah, I think the numbers will be a lot better. And in the US, it's always a weird crowd when the casinos or the hotels start rolling. It's not like a hardcore boxing audience. So when a UK lens looks at a US event, they always going to be naturally a bit disparaging or negative because people aren't there pissed up singing Sweet Carolina. That's not just the US style of boxing fan, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's quite a difference. It's a different kettle of fish. So even just having, just having the good numbers, having a good fight is probably more important than having the crowd there, because what it does for these guys' profiles and, what it can do for the pay-per-views as well, I think it's incredible. And also, people here often don't, it might do, let's say 200,000 pay-per-views. People look, well, Joshua does 300,000 or 400,000, but these guys are paying $75 a pop, so it's a different ball game, isn't it?
Yeah, man. That's and I think that if all the reports that are coming back for Fox are all good. I mean, the numbers that they've been doing for the ones that are on the pay per view, the free air kind of shows. The numbers that they've been doing is fantastic, because they're doing it right. They're building it off of the back of the NFL. I mean, they've got the biggest sport in the US, and they're doing it right. They're building boxing off of the back of it. It's like that. It's that way. It's like people are having a drink, watching watching whatever. I don't even know any American football teams, but people are sitting there having a drink, and then they go like that. Oh, there's that Wilder fight, and it's all like, come on, fuck it, we'll get it. Do you know what it's like? When you're drunk, you're a lot more generous with your money. Do you know what I mean? And when
people have pay-per-view parties in the US, that's quite common. That you get a few of your mates together and you cook some food and watch. You watch the. I think timing-wise, I mean, it's Saturday evening. Let's see. There might be an NFL game that leads. Yeah, there's an NFL game tomorrow, so you can watch the Texans against the Colts, probably prime time Fox, and then straight from there you go into watching the Wilder fight. So they're going to do it properly. So they're going to lead up to it.
Yeah, and just to finish up on this, what is your prediction?
I think Wilder will take him out in 3 rounds.
3 rounds. I'm saying 7th. I'm saying the 7th. I think it'll be quite competitive up until the 7th. But
so it's going to be 12 rounds of points. It's going to be a boring fight, 12 rounds of points.
I fucking hope it's not the 3rd, because I'm thinking I'm going to maybe sit up and have a drink and sit up and watch it. And I'm just praying it's not fucking over in 3 rounds. That will kill me. And
it's going to be Ortiz Malik Scott too.
What about John Ryder and Callum Smith? Because I forgot to ask you about that one.
I think Callum Smith's going to maybe stop him in the late rounds. I'm thinking something between rounds 9 to 12, he might get stopped.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking sooner than that. I'm actually thinking either 6, maybe even earlier than the 5th. I hope I'm not trying to do Ryder a disservice here, but when you think of the size of the task in front of him, that's my justification. I just think that he might find himself in trouble just because of the sheer size of Callum Smith. On the Ortiz Wilder undercard, we've also got Luis Nery versus Manny Rodriguez. I this is a fight I think everybody will be taking note of and keeping an eye on, because really the winner of this has got the road to Inoue. How do you, just to touch on this, how do you see this fight going? Who do you think will win this?
I think Nery's going to win it. Very convinced. I think he's a good. He got banned for drugs, didn't he?
Yeah, I think in Japan, I think it was.
Yeah. Well, I think he's a good fighter. I think he's a very talented fighter.
I think, don't quote me on this, but I'm sure when the drugs that get popped with though were to make the weight. So I'm not sure how he's going to be at the weight. And I mean, Rodriguez isn't he? I mean, former world champion, dethroned by Inoue, actually. This could be a bit. I think this could be a decent fight. This one, and at least for the first for the start of it anyway, until Nery's maybe he's natural, his biological advantages start taking over. He's a bigger boy than Rodriguez. But that's a fight I'm looking forward to. I think Nery will win that fight, to be fair. But I thought it was just worth mentioning.
No, it's a good fight, and it's worth definitely mentioning. I think it's a good, whoever beats Nery's with top rank, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, as you said, it's a perfect fight for the winner gets Inoue. But maybe what they'll do is they'll let Inoue flatten a few guys on US television prime time, and then they'll build up to a Nery fight.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they'll do. I think you'll start seeing Inoue. Well, obviously Inoue's got to be out for a good while, with his orbital bone being broke. But I think when Inoue comes back, that's exactly what they'll do. They'll start putting him on a couple of undercards, and just to build his profile a bit, because I mean that's one of the best fights you can make in boxing, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true. And as we were saying earlier, on these lower weight classes, there isn't as much bollocks as you have in the higher weight classes about sort of how, all this posturing, because the money just isn't there. If you're offering these guys $1 million each, they'll take it because it's unbelievable money.
Yeah, yep. And just to finish up tonight, I'm gonna beat that Brendan up, because the show's been so disjointed. We've been kind of all over the place, trying to wait for him to come on, and he stood us up. But it was just
not the first time I've been stood up.
Joe Joyce is now taking on Marco Huck, the 11th of January in Hanover for the vacant European title. I didn't even know Marco Huck was still fighting, let alone back up at heavyweight. Do you think this an easy night's work for Joyce, or do you think Huck's still got enough in the tank?
I think Huck is washed up, isn't it? I know it's a bit critical to talk about fighters in those terms, but yeah, I think Huck's best days are behind him. I
mean, I went to Berlin for the Super Series, and I watched Hook against Usyk, and it was, and I can only imagine he's worse now, but it felt like Hook's brain was telling his body to do stuff that it couldn't do anymore, and it was like his hands would go away punching and his feet weren't underneath him anymore, and he kept falling into the ropes and falling on top of Usyk, and it was like it doesn't bode well for me. But that was him fighting Usyk, who can move, who's quick, who's a perfect boxer. Joe Joyce isn't this. Joe Joyce is the most telegraph guy out there. I think he punches hard, but I mean he's probably the slowest moving thing, since Mold.
Do you mean Mr. Robocop?
He's fucking. I hate watching him. I need to speed him up.
He's awful, isn't he? I think if he was fighting my backyard, I'd close the curtains, as Frank Warren's famously once said about Johnny Nelson.
He might be a prick, Frank, but he's got some good patter sometimes, isn't he?
He does, but my favourite Frank Warren thing is when he goes, "Do me a favour."
he's the only promoter ever that's got his own catchphrase,
Yeah, he's that guy that everybody can relate to, because he's like your granddad that's just stuck in the old school. But they do have pearls of wisdom, but they just refuse to accept their young gun can come in their territory and take take what's theirs.
Yeah, and it's not even that. The young guys that try to take over are his sons, in his
Yeah,
case.
exactly.
But Riku, thanks very much for coming on. I mean,
Pleasure.
we're getting quite late now, so it's probably the best idea just to wrap it up there. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it, and thanks everybody for listening. I really appreciate you guys making the time to listen to us.
Give us reviews on iTunes. We need those reviews.
Yeah, get the reviews in, man. Get them up.
Yeah, definitely. We need reviews, and also if people have questions, send them on Twitter to Steve or myself.
Yeah, probably best doing it to you because my memory is terrible. Right, guys, thanks very much. I'll see you later.
Pleasure. Cheers, mate. Bye. Thank you, everyone.